So I was quite excited to know that somebody has opened a Waldorf school here. And I just want to understand more about I want the audience to understand more about what exactly is this. Half of the people here don't even know what Waldorf is. So how is it that you got into? How is it that you encountered like the Waldorfs?
Waldorf.
Yeah.
So, way back in 1997, when I moved to Hyderabad, I think that's the best thing that came in my life. I got married there in June, and in July itself, a friend of mine from my college said, I don't know if you like Hyderabad, but I know one thing that you will like. I'll take you there. And she took me to this beautiful training that was being done by a Dutch lady in, in a kind of very rustic place. And I just went with an open mind without asking, where are you taking me? And they were doing wet on wet painting right under the sky. And playing with those colors, I just knew that if I ever have a child, I mean, I was married only for a month, but if I have a child, this is where my child will go. Mm-hmm. And that's about it.
So
it
was a Waldorf school?
It was the first Waldorf training in India.
Wow, okay.
And I just attended that one training, for one day, and then I came to Nepal for my holiday, but it just left such a deep impact on me that I never looked at any schools there. The following year, the school started, and when my son was born, he just went there.
Wow. I have a very similar story because I first encountered Waldorf. I met this child. I was attending a friend's wedding, and we were in her house before the wedding. We were like all friends. We were just roaming around, chilling about her house. There were so many kids there, but there was this one kid that just stood out. So all the other kids were playing on their phones and, they were bugging their parents. This kid was just playing with a TT ball for an hour, 2 hours. He just kept playing. So then I went and asked his parents that, what is so different about him? You could see that something is different. And then his father told me that we sent him to a Waldorf school. So they were from Bombay. And they were like, he studies in Inodai. And that's when I started exploring what Waldorf is. I didn't even I was not, same thing. I was just barely married for a year or so. And I started exploring the concept. And I had it in mind that if I ever have a kid, I would like to send him to a Waldorf school. The more I studied, the more inclined I got towards, methods of Rudolf Steiner. So I had a kid way ahead, but way later. But my niece was born first, Rutvi. So I convinced the entire family that you have to send her to, the school. And they did send her for a year, but they were not convinced. So they took her out. They sent her to another school. But I managed to reconvince them and put her back into Waldorf. And so that was... yeah. That's why I was so excited when the school opened in Kathmandu.
Maybe you just put your intention there and it just happened at the right time for her.
Yeah, it happened. That's what it happened at the right time. I wish, it was something that we could follow through, but I understand how difficult it is also. So I also found out that you yourself went to a Krishnamurti school.
Yes, for 2 years.
Oh, okay. And what kind of impact did that have on you?
Well, it's very surprising now that I look back. What took me there, I just truly feel that it's the destiny. Yeah. I remember when I was in grade 6, when there was no phone and no outside, influence where whatever your parents told was your truth in life and not so much exposure. I don't know where did it come from, where... one of my grandparents in Banaras told me there's a very nice school here. And I don't know why he told me this, but I started dreaming about Krishnamurti school. I called for a form and my father did not sign it. This was in grade 6.
Wow.
He said, you're too young to go to a boarding. I will not send you. And the chapter closed there. And then after grade 10, I studied till grade 10 in Nepal, and after grade 10, he said, I'll put you in boarding school, and he said, where? And I said, I want to go to that Krishnamurti school. I never expressed before that, and then he said, okay, if that's what you want to do. But I don't know how I called for the form, how did I do all that, even though I was a very meek kind of child. And I was one among 4 children or 5 children to get admission.
Yeah.
And I was not such a great student or anything, but maybe it was just meant to be for me. And for 2 years, 11th and 12th, I studied there. And I could really relate very well. I was still not a very good student, but I think it still gave me everything that my soul was looking for.
I'm sure, because I study a lot of like J.D. Krishnamurti's philosophies, and I find it very similar to Rudolf Steiner's.
Yes.
A lot of things.
In fact, they were in the same society.
Oh, wow. I didn't know this.
They were part of same Theosophical Society, and later they parted their ways.
Wow, wow. Now, it makes sense that they would have crossed their, paths in life as well.
Yes.
So how is it that you got so inclined towards it? Like, at 11-year-old or when you were a 10-year-old?
So that's what I said. I have no clue. I think it was just part of my destiny where it called me to go when nobody in my family had heard about it or gone there. And fortunately, my father agreed to send me. It was only 2 years that I went there for, but it left a deep impact. And I knew that this is what I want. And academics never mattered so much to me. Yeah. I mean, when I say academics, more of marks and competition was not my, it's not in me. And it gave me what my soul required, probably.
Yeah. So what about your parents? Like, the marks and competition didn't matter to you, but how was it?
I think those days parents did not really care so much, and we being so many of us, we are 8 of us as siblings, it didn't matter. They just accepted who we were and never really tried to see that we need to achieve.
Yeah, it was much easier for them to just see their kids as. Do you think like having fewer kids now, because like nowadays mostly we have 1, 2 or maximum 3 kids, leads us to like, expecting more from our children? Because...
Well, I mean, each to themselves. I see an advantage of having so many of us, but I have only one son. And I still don't feel that there's anything less that he gets. Yeah. Of course, I go through that one child syndrome. Maybe the focus is too much on this child, and maybe for them it could be overwhelming. But even when you have 2 and 3 or only 1 or 2, you are still giving that, I don't know what the word is, you being able to give what you really want that child. Those days, of course, having so many, they were just growing with each other, and the focus was not so much on just this one child. Yeah. So it has its, I think, advantages. Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. And now we are so focused, going almost towards being a helicopter parent, which could be a lot for the child.
Yeah, yeah.
But,
So I feel like, I personally feel like the more parents I see nowadays, I feel that because we have fewer children and probably a lot more time on our hands, which is very ironical because we are working also, we're doing this also, but we do have a lot more time to think about, obsess over our children, which didn't happen before because our mothers, fathers were busy with all their tasks and, throughout the day. And children were sort of raised by families instead of just the mother or the father, or even by themselves and siblings, and they were sort of, self-raised. But nowadays I feel like our kids don't have that opportunity because of more nuclear families and also a lot more obsession over who my child is going to become, what is my child going to do. So it does have a lot of pros, but I do feel it has a lot of cons as well.
I totally agree to this, because the children are not just growing very naturally the way we grew up, where we were so many. It was like, raising a village in a way where the focus was not just on this one child. And somewhere deep inside, we as parents today, the young parents, they are putting what they couldn't do in their childhood, they are somehow living those dreams through their child and want to do what they missed out in their life, they are trying to put on their own children.
Yeah, a lot of time when I meet parents, and especially parents that are my friends or family members, they ask me that what is the need of a parent coach, because our parents did it perfectly fine and we don't see that there's any lag in us, and they did it without the help of any sort of information or awareness. And I just keep telling them it is because back then the ambience or the environment was so organic and naturally inclined towards raising kids in the best way possible. But of course, I also believe that it's not that we have grown perfectly. It's just that we are unaware of the things that we hold on to, or you were talking about projections. So we are unaware of the conditioning that we hold on to, and we just live in our normal lives, having that conditioning within us and further projecting it onto our children. And, a lot of other additions from our end. So we're just talking about how, as parents, we tend to project a lot onto our kids.
Yeah, that's one. And I also think the world that we are living in today, the children have a lot more to cope up with.
Yeah.
Back then, we had nothing to worry about. Our parents never cared about the competition. They didn't look at us to be high achievers in any way. They just let us grow the way it should be, like you said, organically.
Yeah.
But today, there's so much influence of outside world. They are living in this fast-paced, distracting world where there is the food, which there are so many choices with food, there are so many choices with clothes, there are so many malls to go to, so many birthday parties to attend, and then to top it all, the social media and the technologies, which is adding more to the worries of the parents. They have so much to take in as a parent, and then they feel, am I doing enough for my child? Because each time they meet another person, another friend, they will tell something, and then the parent starts asking herself, but I'm not doing this. Am I going in the right path? So I just feel deep inside there's a lot of this conflict that a parent goes through. Am I doing enough? Those days, parents never had time to think about those things. They were very happy with their family, their neighborhood, in whatever they did.
Yeah, and they didn't even have so much exposure to information.
Exactly. Yeah, there was no Google to look at. They depended on each other and somewhere on the wisdom that was passed on to them from their ancestors.
Yeah.
So that was a beauty. I just feel now the way it's moving, it's kind of creating a lot of confusion in parents' mind. And hence it brings a lot more stress on children. And that thing to achieve so many extra classes and this and that. So
there's always more for the child to achieve. And it's never ending.
Absolutely.
And you don't even need to meet a friend, because you see things on social media and you feel that, oh, this person's kid is doing this. And in fact, that is what social media is about a lot of times, is also creating FOMO. Tends to create FOMO that, oh, my child is not going to that class. And
absolutely. And the human connect is becoming lesser and lesser. It's becoming all the time it's like, when I use the word fast-paced, that's what I mean. One class after the other, one after the other. And child has no time to breathe. They're never given that time to so-called get bored. And parents think that, oh, my child is getting bored. I need to fill that time. But it's important to know that it's good to let them actually come to that state of getting bored. That's where the creativity will come. Also, you keep feeding the child with food one after the other before the child says, I'm hungry. So the child doesn't know what hunger really means, which is a good thing to happen. And it's the same. The child needs to know
what boredom is.
Yes.
In order to be able to even utilize that time to the max, or be more creative with what they are doing.
Absolutely. If they had that space, That's when they would be able to create something new, but they're not given that time.
Yeah. I was reading this book, in fact, just yesterday or day before, The Hurried Childhood by Edwin. And there was this quote that caught my eye, that if we think that the adult ways are better and we try to replace that with the children's ways, then that's the most stupid thing that we are doing. So it's quite interesting that, now we are already, as adults, we are living in this hurried pace, and we already are part of it. And now in the process of like making our children join more and more classes, more extra classes, I shouldn't be saying this because I'm almost, I'd run extra classes for children. But I also believe that in this process of like doing too many classes, we are, like you mentioned, occupying the children's space too much. And so many times when parents come to my institute as well, I tell them that, no, like don't do more than 2 classes in a week.
Exactly.
I stop them. I'm like, no, you don't need to send them all day. And I feel it's also because sometimes parents get busy and they feel that rather than leaving the child at home, we might as well leave the child somewhere. So that's another thing that causes it.
Yeah, I mean, what you said is absolutely right. Rather than leaving a child at home with a helper where probably the child will only, glued to the screen, the parents feel if I put a child in a safe environment where, he or she will be monitored by, the right people. So I completely agree to that part. But I just feel in that case, then sometimes the institute, let's say the hobby centers, you have one, so I'm going to be a little more careful about it.
No,
I'm not pointing at that.
You can say whatever you want.
Yeah,
I mean,
but
it's
not their fault. If they are charging for 3 hours of a child, they feel
obliged to engage the child
for 3 hours. Otherwise, parents are going to question that.
Yeah, what did my child do?
Like, you hear, are you sending your child to a school just to play in the sand? Balwama khelnako lagi त्यति पैसा तिरिराख्नु भएछ. This is what they ask. But they don't understand why you do what you do. And if we as an institute, let's say a hobby center, could still give them that conducive and safe environment, but have that very clear conversation with parents that we are not going to make it too structured.
Yeah.
I think maybe that balance could be brought so that parents feel safe that yes, my child is in right hands and not just sitting in front of TV with the helper, but at the same time, you are not bombarding the child. I'm sure you're not, but still not bombarding the child. But that has to be understood well by the parent first.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right, because even when I run Grooming Tales, a lot of times I am in conflict with what I want to do and what the parents want me to do. Of course, a lot of people ask me that, don't you ever want to start a school? Don't you ever want? And I say no, because at least in Grooming Tales, I have the liberty to do exactly what I want to do with my child. The moment it comes to a school, then you become a bit more pressurized, you feel, because then it's like your child's mainstream education. So usually when parents bring their kids to Grooming Tales, they are coming with not that many expectations, because they're already sending their children to school. So then they feel that, okay, you do what you do best. So it's a much easier, but I know what you mean, because I do sense that conflict from time to time, that should we be teaching, or should we just let the child be for a while and let them pause and do nothing.
Yeah. So like you see, when like in Waldorf schools, all children draw beautifully.
Yeah.
Every piece is an art piece. And the moment parents see that, oh, my child could draw such a beautiful rainbow with all the colors and really beautifully, which I could never do in my life, they feel, oh, my child is really inclined to art. I think I should. And immediately the mistake they make is put the child in art class. And that's when the child just stops drawing. Every child is an artist. It's us, how we keep it going and not let it die by giving them that structured class. Their creativity just has to grow. The moment they go to an art class, then the expectation will be that teacher is going to really start teaching them how to draw.
Yeah. Mm.
And then they just lose the interest.
So do you feel it leads to, a lot of guided mentoring,
Yes.
leads to losing out on the actual like innate capability or what they are learning as children, or the way they are developing?
Absolutely. Because that's where, we are different from other styles of education, where Waldorf believes in a very... They give you that room. If I say it in layman's language, they give you that room to the child to be who he is. And each child is different. They come with their capability, and we embrace the child as he or she is, instead of saying he should be this or he should be that. Maybe there's one child with the same open-ended toy, which is, let's say, a hollow block or just few blocks. He will maybe make a barn and have some animals there. And there's another child who will use those same blocks and maybe make a big airport or a castle. But we are not looking at this child who made a barn, which is humble and small, to be that. We still embrace this child with his creativity where he is. And maybe he will learn what he wants to learn from his own friends without saying anything. The teachers don't interfere in their play at all, because that's where they bring the best of their capability, best of their creativity, and they have time to grow the way they like. But if we started guiding them in this free play time of 1 hour where children can play the way they like with the ideas, they are going to be pressurized to a large extent to achieve. And that's not what we are looking at. We just want them to be who they are. So some children there are days when they bring sadness, where maybe something happened at home, or they had witnessed something, or they did not have a good sleep. Could be anything. And the child is who he is on that day.
Yeah. So, there is so much that we can talk about play.
Yeah.
Because the way you were saying that, if a child is sad, he uses that play to, let's say, process his feelings.
Yes,
yeah, emote
absolutely.
and process his feelings. And it's funny because yesterday I had dinner with my friends, and I was telling them that I was called for a parent-teacher meeting to school. And what the teacher had to tell me was that, your child is not playing properly. So usually when you go to other schools, it's all about studying. And it's really rare that a parent will hear that, your child is not playing as well as... Enough, yeah. So can you tell us more about this play and how you can go so deep into a child's present way of being, or what a child needs more based around their play?
Yeah, I remember as a parent, when I was a kindergarten parent, this was more than 20 years back, I came across a book which was called Towards Creativity. And I had picked up from one of the conferences, and it was a thin book. I said, this is all I need. And I started reading, and there were few pictures, and there was this beautiful little, I can't say article, but still a kind of, a little glimpse of the child's play. And it actually, the picture was about some children playing and making a beautiful aeroplane out of it, and a lot of description about the same thing, about what was going in their play. And I really said, this is an exaggeration. How can the children be playing like this? They can't even think this way. I truly thought it was an exaggeration, even though I was already with Waldorf as a parent, but I couldn't believe my eyes, and, it just felt too exaggerated to me. Until I actually got into a class as a teacher, and I saw the exact thing happening there. The whole conversation about play is, the way they play and the conversations that they have is truly beyond words. There are times when teachers get goosebumps. For us, this is what we discuss when we have lunch break for teachers how a child played and what the child said. So the other day a teacher was sharing about her class. I will give you an example. These are 3 to 4 year olds, and in that class there is a boat, wooden boat, and usually it's actually kept there for these 2-year-olds, parent-child children, where they come and rock and it can turn into a stepper. And she actually said, I'm sorry, I took a picture because they're not allowed to really take pictures there. She said, I took a picture because I just couldn't resist myself of the play that they were having. All these children, 12 of them were in that boat, and they said, we are going round the world. And they had these roly-polies, and the one child had this roly-poly in hand and said, okay, all of you now sit down. I am going to put seat belts on you. So she was putting seat belt, and then it kept going forward, and they said, now we are reaching here, there. Okay, now it's time for you to get off. But when I think of those things, I don't even think maybe, it could be just one car which moved, but they had used every toy of the class to make this happen, and the way they all played together.
Yeah.
So this is just like one example where their creativity comes out, and all of them can really get together to do it.
Yeah.
But we respect this one part, and the other part could be where each of them play themselves, and they are very happy to play with each other or to play parallelly on their own. I do remember one more incident I can give, which is for me very, very profound as a parent. My son was in kindergarten, last year of kindergarten, and the teacher called me for a meeting, and she asked me, have you had a death in your family? I don't know if I have shared this story
No,
with you.
you've not shared this before.
Have you had a death in your family? I said, no. She said, are you sure? I said, no. Has he witnessed anything? I said, I would never take him for anything like this. She said, okay. And I said, why do you ask me this? And she told me he took a cloth, because we use these open-ended 2-meter cloths. He had a cloth, and 4 children were holding, and they were actually saying Ram Ram, and
Putting it.
the whole show, she said she saw. She in fact even saw that he took one pot and threw it behind, just exactly the way the Hindus have their cremation part. And I truly had chills, and I started thinking, I said, few months back, his great-grandmother had passed away, and the children have to be there. Every member of the house has to be there. He had witnessed that part, just that one part. And I couldn't believe everything came out in the play. And he was 5-year-old then. So it could be that intense for children.
Yeah.
For them, it is serious work. Play is serious work.
Yeah.
And it's good that he could process it and bring it out there, and then he makes peace with it. But you see, most of the times you can see what goes on in
The play.
Yes. Like, how the mothers probably talk, how the fathers really talk, how some other grandparents or any people in the family are really dealing. There are some children with the same doll, the way they treat the doll, you can make out how rough it could be for this child at home. Or some children really take one piece of block and start talking very loudly, putting it on thing, that then okay, maybe one of the parents are on the phone like this, and they just imitate. I had this one child who took a purse, put it across like a cross bag, and she started walking with a real swing. And then she was talking like one hoity-toity mother, and I knew this is how the mother always walked into the school. And she said, I'm going to buy vegetables and then I will be back. And she went on in, the native language. But how children depict everything that they actually see in their world.
So it's actually I would say like an important thing that they sort of have with them, which they can also use to process their emotions, to go about life. So
Absolutely.
I was reading about it that for children, play, work, and love are intertwined.
Absolutely.
Up till a certain age, there's no distinguish or differentiation between the three.
Yes, for them it is not play. For them it is serious work. That's why the teacher in the class, she doesn't play with them or entertain them. She sits there and does some purposeful work. She could be ironing, she could be sitting and maybe stitching something, so that children know that my teacher is working and so are we.
Yeah.
And she will intervene. Her eyes are always on children and also her ears. Every single thing that the child says, she takes it in because that's how she understands children better. But at the same time, she doesn't intervene and say, why are you playing this way or that way, unless there's a danger.
Yeah. This is really interesting to me, the way you keep saying that it is the work they do and the work helps them. Because as an adult, I like to do a lot of meditation or breath work to work on myself. And now I'm almost viewing this. So I have read a lot about play and the way children play and more so even now. But there's a new perspective I'm gathering right now, which is that the same work that I do through, like, let's say, meditation or breath work or just journaling, that is the kind of work these children are doing through play.
Absolutely.
Because they're evolving, they're coming, out of each session that they've had to play, they're coming out, a lot more relieved or a lot lighter. That's amazing. So then that brings me to the point of, how we are sort of destroying this unique part of their lives by, let's say, simple things like interrupting. And, nowadays children have so many toys. When we were kids, we used to get toys maybe once in a year, twice in a year at the max. Now it's like, they can have new toys every day, every week. And regardless of, it's not even a financial consideration anymore because toys have become so cheap as well. So every child, any home that I go to, any child that I meet, I just see them full of toys. And I also feel that it is a parent's way of compensating for some sort of guilt that with the help of toys, whatever it is, they feel good buying, they get some sense of satisfaction buying toys for the kids, and they feel like they're doing something nice for the children by buying them toys or making toys more available to them. I met a friend once who said that I don't want to deprive my child of toys because when I was growing up, I didn't have enough toys. So now that I can, afford it or bring toys for him, why not? So similarly, I feel there's a sense of satisfaction that we are doing for ourselves by giving our kids toys. But the way you talk about play, I feel like we are harming, we are taking that, not harming, but taking that unique ability that nature has given them away from them by swamping them with toys.
Yeah. Like we talked right in the beginning, how, somehow unconsciously we are trying to put our dreams or whatever we felt deprived of by over giving to our children. We were not given so many classes or so much exposure, and we want our child to have it. But somehow we sometimes don't understand why that limitation was important, and probably that's what has made us fine people today. Today, like earlier, there was this culture of getting a new dress only on your birthday or on a festival, and how we looked forward to it. Now, every day they get new dress. Children have no gratitude, reverence, importance, none of that.
And then as parents, we all also say that, my child is not grateful.
Yes, same thing.
Yeah.
So I just really feel less is more. This is, if you see the kindergarten, any kindergarten, Waldorf kindergarten in the world, you will see something very common about them. The way it smells, the way it looks, the way the toys are. Every toy has its place, and it is always less. We don't leave things in heaps. The other day when I was having a meeting, one parent said, well, you only have one. No, we usually keep it in pairs. Only 2 dogs, the puppet. How do so many children share? I had no answer. It never even clicked me that, oh, really? We never talk about sharing is caring. We never give those lines. But they have never, I mean, they probably will ask for the same thing, but mutually they know how to work around it than giving one to each child.
Yeah. It's also an opportunity for them to learn life skills like conflict resolution, negotiating.
And social skills.
Yes. Yeah.
So less is more. This is what I have always believed and seen, that the lesser you give, the more beautifully they will play.
Yeah.
We don't put too many of each things. Like even when they are drawing in the class, we could give one crayon box to each child, but we still try to make an effort to give one between 2 children. So that they know how to wait for their turns. The other day I was in the class and I was sharing, I just asked, may I share with you? And the child said yes. And both of us needed yellow. So I had already picked up and started working, and this child was waiting. And I said, are you waiting for something? Yes, I'm waiting for yellow. I really was so touched that she did not say, have you finished? Nothing. She very patiently waited for it.
Yeah, that's a life skill right there. And the whole emotional regulation that we talk about, that how do we do this in our kids? How do we
And without using words, this has to come in the gestures of adults. When they do it, children are like sponges without filter. They are going to just learn everything that we as parent or adult are doing. They are just imitating us. So
I feel this is like one of the biggest challenges we as parents face today. Because, we want to teach, we are aware what we want to teach our children, and we want to teach our children many things, but we aren't able to teach them, with the natural ambience, the way the house is going about. Just as simple as, what you asked me the other day, that, but do you do your own chores at home? And I don't do all of my chores myself. So it's but obvious that it is going to be very difficult for my child to learn to do his own chores. And then I'm fretting about, he's not doing his tasks, he's not doing his chores, or he's not picking up his toys after him. So it's going to be impossible to teach them these things by just telling them to do it. And so this is how do we balance this? Because now we have a way about life. I'm not suddenly going to start doing the chores that I didn't do, on an everyday basis. So and this is a question, not just me, like all parents ask me that, and the other day I was having a conversation with these friends, and they were telling me that sometimes we enact. So like he told me that I dropped something on my pants, and my son was there, and the help was about to come give me the cloth, and I just gave him a thing that no, don't come, and I started cleaning it myself. But that is again, it's an artificial portrayal of what it is, and children tend to sense that.
Sense it, of course.
They tend to sense it that, oh, my father's just acting, or he's just doing it because I'm here. And a lot of time when we feel they're not watching, they're watching.
Absolutely.
So how do we now what do we do? How do we balance this thing? Because they are going to grow up, and how do we ensure that they are instilling all these skills in them?
So one thing which is a very big part of training in our College of Teachers is self-work. That is what actually we don't talk all the time about the curriculum, about which songs to sing. But what I emphasize, at least in my own kindergarten, is who we are as a person. If the teacher comes with, let's say she's had a little tiff at home, maybe the mother-in-law kind of scolded or had a little argument with the husband or little tiff with the driver who was driving, she's going to carry that to the school. One thing I say is, anything that happens back home, even if you witness something on the way, it stays outside the gate. And when we come in, we are there only and only for the children, and the child is the center. It takes a lot to come to that point, but, we try to make an effort to do that. And when it happens, the teachers are very happy and they say, I'm not able to do yet. But later, when they come to that point, they're saying, now I'm able to do it. So we are training ourselves. Of course, songs, stories, all this is a part of the education system, but who we are as a person. And it's the same thing with parents. Now, this child has come in your life for a reason. He has chosen you as a parent. Maybe I'm a very busy parent, I'm a very busy woman, I'm an entrepreneur, anything. But now that I've chosen to be a parent, I feel it's my responsibility to take care of this child. And now everything starts he becomes the center of my life. And what we want to teach our children, somewhere we have to change that lifestyle and take it. Fortunately or unfortunately, we live in a country where we have a lot of help. So when you go to the West, everything that parents are doing themselves, so children very naturally do it. They are natural helpers. That's not something that they need to be taught. I've been to many kindergartens and I see children just do it very, very beautifully. And that's the big difference I see when I come to our own children, where
this part of the world.
Yes. So when the teacher, let's say after fruit or after lunch, we have helpers, but what teachers have to do is they help the children, they clean the table, they broom, they really, I would say not mop, but at least they will pick up all the rice. And when she starts doing, they have this little, tub with lot of brooms and the dustpan. And when the teacher starts doing, she doesn't say, come on, children, help me do it. She just starts doing. And when they see the teacher does every day, third day, there will be some child who will come and say, teacher, I want to help you. And soon one child does, the others will start do. After a while, teacher doesn't even have to, she will not even get a chance to pick up that broom. But still the fact is the teacher was doing every single day and she's always open to doing it. Maybe you're not doing it back home. After that, Didi comes, once children leave, then she comes and gives another cleaning. But what they witness, what they're going to imitate.
Yeah. And in a way, it comes naturally to them, right? Because around the age of like 1.5, they literally start picking up brooms and they start wiping windows. They love doing that. All kids have seen this.
Yes. And then the parents says, no, you don't have to do. Or the Didi will come, na babu timle ki na gare ko. Even when the child is wearing shoes, immediately the Didi feels, am I not doing my job well? And my boss is not going to be happy. She will say, my son is wearing shoes on his or her own.
So we interrupt them even in the natural process of learning. So basically there's the one way, or, I don't know, maybe the only way is to like work on ourselves first, even before we plan to have children.
Absolutely.
We can, work on those things.
Self-education.
Yeah. But that's the whole irony that, we tend to believe that something like parenting is something that comes to us naturally. The moment we have a child, we'll know exactly what to do. Instead of, being educated or being more aware of these things that, yes, like there are a lot of things that we need to work on ourselves as we prepare to be parents.
See, to a large extent, I think that's true that once you have this gift in your hand, the God also gives you the gift of knowing how to deal with it. And mothers have that natural instinct and the wisdom. But and if you go to see our parents, our grandparents, who taught them? They just learned from what the nature taught them or their
Yeah.
older ones at home
Yeah.
taught. But again, coming back to this fast-paced, distracting world, the word that I'm using is what is taking away that natural instinct from us as mothers or parents, where we are bombarded with these information and that confuses us.
Yeah.
You want to believe that vaccination is not good for me, for my child, but there will be 100 other articles which will say you should take it.
Yeah.
And that's where the parent gets confused. Am I not doing the right thing?
And in fact, it's made fun of that Waldorf
course.
schools do not enforce vaccination. And,
Yes.
and a lot of parents in the West, I've heard my friends say that I will not send my child to a Waldorf school because the kids there are not vaccinated.
I did not vaccinate my
Yeah.
child. So, but somewhere our natural instincts are dying because of what's been bombarded to us.
And that is with so many things. That is not just with
Absolutely.
vaccination. Recently there are so many mom bloggers also on Insta. And now parents are almost confused. Should I stop my child from saying and doing or, saying anything? Should I not say no to my child? Should I use different words? And I think there's so much pressure on parents because of all this unnecessary information
Yes.
on how to be
Yes.
or what to do.
And somewhere, like you said, the pressure, you are almost brought to that point where people make you feel you're not a good parent.
Yes.
And
that is a constant journey.
Yes. So I just feel how can it be that a parent is not a good parent? It's just a different way of parenting, but the intentions are the same. They want to do the best for their child. It's just that maybe on the way they went little haywire or wrong in some things, which is not in the best. It's probably not serving the child in the right way.
So it would be a good idea for parents to educate themselves as well on the, I believe there's no wrong or right again, but on what's out there. And then, the more aware they are, they can also the instinct can also be stronger on what is it that my child needs. Not what my child wants, not what I want, but what my child needs in that moment.
Yes. The other day, I had a parenting session with a set of parents in the school where first thing I talked about was the needs and wants of children. What does your child need to what the child wants? And I think somewhere the parents are confused about this need and want.
And also adding in what the parent wants in the process.
Exactly. It's what they feel they were deprived of is what they are gradually bringing in. What were we given to eat? I mean, look at children's plate these days. It's surprising how many choices they are given. And then the child is confused. And then the parent says, my child does not eat. He's such a picky eater.
Believe it or not, that's one of the biggest complaints or biggest problems that parents come to me with today, that, but how do I get him or her to eat? Because my child is, such a bad eater.
Yes.
And I feel that naturally humans want food, right? It's not that they are going to be hungry. Even a child is not going to be hungry for too long. Naturally, he is going to he's going to want food, right? So we are the ones that are maybe killing the appetite, or like you mentioned, giving them too many choices, which confuses them to a point where they don't know what to eat, or they're already full just looking at the plate.
Absolutely. That is one. And the other thing is giving them quick meals. They don't even let the child feel that hunger.
Starting from when they are babies. We made that mistake, because I remember my pediatrician telling me that please
2
have
hours,
gaps.
please. Yes.
And he used to tell me your moms didn't have time
Yes.
to feed you, and here all you guys are doing is
feeding all
focusing
day.
on feeding.
Exactly. Yeah. So there's a lot there.
Yeah. And another thing, as you talk about this fast-paced world and how we as parents, you mentioned that it's not that we don't have the right instincts as parents, and naturally we probably don't even need somebody to tell us what to do with our children if we just follow our natural instincts. But it gets lost in the process because of how much of a hurry we are in and the amount of different things that we have to do in a day, and we ourselves don't take a chance to pause.
Yes.
So I feel we are going more towards being more unconscious. And if we can step towards being more conscious parents, then we'll not need to, seek advice or help from anybody for that matter. The more conscious. So that is also like some work that we can do on ourselves as parents, right? Just becoming more conscious human beings.
A lot of work we can do on ourselves. I never feel that child is a problem. When I hear parents say, but the child has a problem. And I always say, child doesn't have any problem. It's us who need to work on ourselves as parents.
So I feel all this is also leading towards, because now in my institute, more than ever, I see a lot of children with, I don't know the right word or what to term it, but let's say children on the spectrum coming in, and I can just see it increasing year by year. And when I talk to schools, when I talk to principals, they say the same thing. They say year by year, we are just noticing an increase in admission of special needs children. And once a principal randomly asked me, why do you think this is happening? And the first few things that could come to my head was that hurried and fast-paced thing that as parents, we are so anxious all the time. And we tend to project that anxiousness to our babies, which impedes in their development along the way. And of course, there's like screen time and there's a lot of processed food, the whole environment as a whole where they are not getting to be closer to nature, more away from nature. So what is the solution to all this? How do I feel like it's, we've talked about it so many times, but I feel it's a tug of war going in two different directions. How do we turn this thing around and stop this?
Yeah, I totally agree to what you are saying.
Or how do we even help these children in the first place? Because especially in Nepal here, there are very few places, where children can be helped. And we are not experts. I'm not an expert in helping children with special needs, nor is my team. But we still have, one or two parents come every now and then that it's okay, still admit her, maybe put her in art class, teach her something, she will learn something. And it's not just me, it's a problem of all educationists here, because a lot of times schools will also say that, we want to help these children, but we don't know what to do because we need special attention for for these kids. So how do you think as a country we can, of course, like towards the longer run, minimize the cause as to why this is happening, but also like, for whatever reason it is happening, help these children? What do you think?
Yeah, I think I'll digress a little just to tell you a little more of, since you used the word country, and for me, Nepal is too close to my heart, being my birthplace. I had gone for this training in Jomsom, where I was training teachers from entire town. And the parents were saying, the gap that I saw was parents said the teachers do this, and the teachers said the parents want this. So I said, okay, let's meet both separately and understand where is it coming from. And the parents, when I met them, I really had a very long 2-hour heart-to-heart conversation with them. And I said, the place that you're sitting in is so sacred. It just brings tears in my eyes. You are living in a real holy, pure place. And I could see when I used some of these words, they were all in awe and drawn towards me. Like their eyes were totally, they couldn't believe what I was saying. They said, really? And I said, do you doubt it? They said, we feel deprived. We want to take our children to Kathmandu and feel that we are depriving our children from everything. And I said, I can only say that this place is my dream. How I wish Kathmandu or any other place was like where you are living in. This is a divine place.
I have more and more parents telling me I want to leave my job and take my children away from Kathmandu. And I feel...
Exactly, because they know the abusive life they have to lead here, right?
Yeah.
But people who do not get, they think the grass is greener on the other side. And that day they actually thanked me and they said, we really used to think, what are we doing to our children? And we were putting our children in boarding in Kathmandu, getting them out of our sights. So coming back to what you said, giving them too much screen, giving lot of processed food, lot of exposure to everything that come across, more life. I would even use the word birthday culture, and it's becoming bigger and bigger, where it's all about materialism and flamboyance. Very little of what the child needs is really kept in mind. A child likes bunny, so they'll create the whole big thing about bunny, and I think that probably would be the last day for the child to say, I love bunnies, literally. Anyway, from there, you see how we today, the human beings, are abusing the earth, the environment. And slowly, it's come to a point where you see so many illnesses coming, the consequence of this on human body and on the earth, to coming back to what our ancestors had, where they took care of the soil, they took care of the earth, they prayed for the earth. That's where they were. So a lot of this sattvic side is coming back. More and more parents have started believing in that thing of giving. Like, you see so many people turning vegan. Okay, a fancy term you can say, but still they're coming back to the root food and not giving too much of sugar, processed food, whatever you call it, maida. Because they've seen, we've really abused it enough to a point where you see more and more children on spectrum. It's beginning to show. You see cancer coming to literally every fifth house, lesser than that, I would say. All that is happening. And it's not because that family was doing something wrong. It's all in the air. It's just there. So what do you do? The kind of air they are breathing, it's not in their hand. And
I feel like, to a huge extent, I also feel lucky to be raising my child in Kathmandu versus any other part of the world. Because I feel here we are still
absolutely
more slow paced than like a city like Delhi or Bombay or, and I feel like we still have, or even the West for that matter, let's say New York or London or any other. And I also feel like, thank God we don't have Amazon here. We don't have, many choices. Like, people tend to complain that we don't get a lot of toys here. And I'm like, thank God we don't get anything.
Exactly.
I'm limited to what I'm going to bring for my children, and not just me, even my family is limited to what they're going to bring for the child. So
I agree, totally agree. And I think that's what, in a way, Waldorf brought me back to my own roots. I always used to think India is better, but once I got into Waldorf, I really realized what I actually missed out. I'm missing out in life because the whole soul consciousness of people in Nepal is very different, very different. We are a lot more connected to the earth than, and we are a lot more connected to our own selves than just being in our intellectual side. So, maybe we may not sound very intelligent in our heads all the time. We live more with our feelings here. I hope I'm not generalizing it. But you can see, like you said, you're more connected to what's out in the nature in comparison to what cosmopolitan city does. Even if the parent wants to take, they have to make an effort to find a park close by, to give some exposure to the nature there. So yes, and our children, like you said, are a lot more, you could call it slower in there, which is a gift.
And sometimes we tend to compare it the other way around. We say that children in Nepal are so slow as opposed to like, a niece or nephew that has come from Bombay and they're like, oh, he or
Thank
she
God
knows
for
so
that.
much.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's so much more easier to work with. I mean, there's no doubt about it. When I hear the conversations of children in other parts of the world, I always just come back in my mind about how pure our children in Nepal are. When they play, you can see it. You can see the joy of them, which they hold from their land.
And the innocence of like just being a child. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. This brings me to like the whole concept of, Waldorf, of how for the first 7 years, we don't focus on anything that is academic. And it is so contrary to what all the other schools or what the general education system or what parents want is to teach their children as much as fast as possible. In fact, now there's this new movement where they have started teaching their kids even in conception, like when they are pregnant, they are showing flashcards. Children, that I don't know. I never had a chance to physically see those flashcards, but I have been hearing and I can imagine like those black and white flashcards that parents are showing while they are pregnant, and we feel that if we can teach our children while they're in the womb, then when they come out, they'll already start learning their phonics or their ABCDs.
Wow.
And it really perplexes me also, the whole thing. But what do you have to say about this?
I think in all my trainings and my little knowledge about what we've been gathering, I've always asked this to parents. Okay, your child doesn't know how to read alphabets at the moment, but what's the hurry? And they say, not knowing alphabets till the age of 6 or 7, are you really kidding with us? And of course, Waldorf believes in that, where they are introduced to the first letter when they turn 6. In Nepal, of course, in our kindergarten, we have to do at the age of 5 because we do not have. It is asked by other schools where they would need, and to give that smoother transition. But if you go around the world, they will not do till they have had the fall of teeth. And the fall of teeth, the tooth fall, is a sign that now the internal organs have fully formed. And now they are ready for
learning.
The formal learning or academic learning, which is also done through feeling and not through thinking. So whatever you do in a very gentle way, in a very picturesque, creative way. But okay, I won't get into that detail. But till the age of 6, we try to save all their life forces towards their internal organs growing fully. If you give them early academics at the age of 3 and 4 or 2, whatever, they will learn. I'm not saying they will not pick up. And a lot of parents say, but my child started writing at the age of 3. Oh, he can write all the letters, numbers. But at what cost? Have we seen what it is done to its body? Because all those forces were put into writing beautifully, neatly, rubbing 100 times. And what are we achieving out of it? Then they don't even know how to hold a pencil or a crayon, and they're asked to write.
And they don't even feel like doing it. So they have to be forced to write.
Absolutely. But now when these children are doing at the age of 6, they have that hunger, they have that yearning to learn.
So it's the same thing that you said with the food and with the things. And
absolutely. Yeah. And I'll share a story about this with you, but only thing that you have to ask yourself as a parent is, what's the hurry? If they learnt ABC at the age of 7 or 6 instead of 3, what are you going to achieve? If they learnt it at 3, what is it that you're going to achieve?
So I think it's
more to say, oh, my child can do this. Or is it that the child is saying, oh, you still haven't taught me this?
One aspect of it is that, yes, my child, so there's a sense of satisfaction in, oh, my child can read, or, oh, my child can do this. But I think the other thing is also that parents feel that the sooner or the faster they teach their children, they can keep teaching their children more. They think it's a linear approach.
So what is more is my question.
Yeah, but it's also versus, what happens is it's also versus what's tangible versus intangible. So when they're working on their body forces, it's, sort of intangible to what the parents can see. And when they're working on their academics, it's something that's more tangible. So again, then this comes to awareness, right? Who is going and telling those parents that, no, this is not right? It should be the education system, right?
Absolutely.
So otherwise, how are parents supposed to know everything? That's another thing that, that whole pressure comes on parents, that parents are supposed to know everything. Parents can't possibly know that unless they are studying books or reading books on child development. And that is not the parents' job to be reading books on child development. It is the professional's job. So I feel that...
I would say both.
Yes, to a certain extent. But, if I read one or two books, I'm only going to be so aware, and it's also going to be I wouldn't call it half knowledge, but I'm only going to be so aware. But if an education system tells me that no,
yes,
we are now going to teach your children how to read or write till the fall of teeth, like you said, then I have, I'm just a part of the system.
Yes.
So then I feel that more than parents feeling happy watching their children read or write now, at least, so much so in my generation, I feel it's more of lack of awareness, where, parents feel that, oh, if I teach my child while I'm pregnant these things, then the moment my child comes, they can learn their letters, and then they can learn their phonics. And then by the age of 3 or 4, my child will be able to read books. And then the more books my child reads, the more knowledge he gains. So by the time...
And then what? I would ask myself. And then what? Okay, I've read 100 books. And then what?
Yeah. Yeah, and then what? Exactly. But yeah, there's no one to ask this question, and I feel everybody's just like running this rat race. And also, like we spoke about in the beginning, this whole world has become so much about competition and, making your space in the world or making a point. And that's why I guess parents tend to feel that, okay, the more books my child reads, the more knowledgeable my child is, the more my child will be able to do in the world, which is not true, of course. But...
yeah, I mean...
And the education system is also propagating this, no? There is one Waldorf school in Nepal. A majority of the education system is also propagating this. And like you said, you already have to start teaching children at the age of 5 or 6, even though you don't want to, but in order to ensure that they have a smoother transition to the next school. So in a way, the system is not in collaboration or, sort of a harmony with each other.
I definitely agree to that part. I wish, all the schools really were in sync and believed in focusing on children's well-being.
And to be honest, it's not just the Waldorf system. When I study about Montessori, when I study about Reggio Emilia, in a way, everybody is, sort of propagating the same thing, which is, of course, they have their own different pedagogies. But even Montessori does not say that you teach the child everything before 5 or 6.
Yes.
It doesn't. Yes. Nor does Reggio Emilia. So I wonder where this system of schools doing that came from, because it is not from the leaders of the education system.
Yeah, and like I said, the parents blame the teachers blame the parents, and actually we don't even know who actually is bringing this. Like you said, already knowing that, okay, we will not teach anything to your children till this age. So in Waldorf system, when people put their children, they know they have chosen this for a certain reason. They don't want their children to go through that, grind of early academics. They want that their child should be happy. And the whole focus is on the child's development, the internal and organs, the movement, the balance. It's about the well-being of the child and trying to work on not just one thing, which is thinking, but working on the wholeness, which is, thinking, feeling, and willing. I mean, doing, feeling, and thinking. So it's not the head that we hammer. We start with them doing everything, feeling, getting to do everything what's required.
With the senses.
Yes, with the limbs, with the entire body. And then, okay, feeling the whole thing. So there is whole, it's 0 to 7, which focuses on only doing, which is to do with their limbs. 7 to 14 is all feeling, which is to do with their heart. And then 14 to 21 is when they work with their head. So it's basically a balance of head, heart, and hands. And if all the entire education system could work with that focus, I think the whole world would have been a different place altogether. They need all three. I'm not saying head is not required, but at what age is what is important. If the parents are showing flashcards before the child is born, what are you working with? The child's organs. So you're not even looking at the hands and the heart, you're only working with the head of the child. And actually, there are articles about this, that the children who are given concepts at a very early age, before they are ripened in their heads, it leads to a lot of illnesses later in their life.
Yes.
Which doesn't show at that time. You could feel my child is very intelligent, but at what
when
cost?
They are in their 30s and 40s.
Yes.
Yeah.
So when you start giving lot of importance to academics at an early age, the child will perform, but at what cost? He may turn into a very anxious child. And is that what we want of our children? Maybe they'll get 2 marks less or some percentage less, but when the difficulty in life comes, or when they have to perform in this world, how they handle themselves is what is more important. Not the marks, not those list of books that they have read. None of this anybody is going to ask. But how they come out and deal with the situation. I mean, life is not bed of roses. So we prepare the children for that.
Yeah.
Even in kindergarten, when children are told stories, I mean, we tell story every day. It's a very big part. A fairy tale is told. We don't give them moral, but what we tell them is just the story where they see goodness wins over the evil side, and without telling them that the prince was a good one and the witch was bad. They love both of them equally, but they know that good will win over bad. And that's the preparation for life later for them, without telling them this in direct words.
This is again very interesting for me, because one of the questions I get asked the most in my session is, how do I develop emotional regulation or emotional resilience with my child? Like, my child is having a hard time dealing with this, or my child is having a hard time, and now more and more children are...
What age?
So it's usually teenagers. But, there are 8-year-olds also, there are like 10-year-olds also, there are also like 18-year-olds. So children are having more and more difficulty accepting reality. Whether it is bad scores, or whether it is a fight with a friend, or whether it is, no to something. Even when I work with young adults, there's a lot of terms used, like, let's say, burnout, which
Yes.
there was no term called burnout when I was younger.
Yeah.
There was nothing called burnout. So the way I see it, I feel our emotional resilience is getting affected in the process. And this is something, like you're mentioning, we start building early on, right? Starting from the first few years of our lives, which is what we are lacking as well, focusing too much on academics in the early years. We are focusing and we are missing out on those life skills.
Yes.
Of course, the physical aspect of it, where the organs are developing, but also a lot of life skills that, we've been discussing.
Yeah, I can give you one very real example of what I witnessed in our kindergarten here. There was this child, when this kindergarten had just started, there was this child who had come from one regular school and extremely boisterous, full of energy, like it was hard to contain him. But I know where it comes from because he studied it at other schools and the energy. But there was a child who was on spectrum and actually highly autistic, I would say, who could barely do his chores himself. So he would be all over the place, even though there was a shadow teacher and everything. But so when we are sitting on the dining table, he would be spilling, doing many things. But we like to include them in the natural setting. It's very easy to have the class which is very quiet, very dreamy, beautiful, and not show the other side of it. And this child who did not, he was even a little bit of, I would say, on a violent side. But the way he really calmed after being here was like, immense change I saw in him. And he had so much compassion for this child. Like he was always ready to help him. I mean, knowing him, how he was all over the place to where he came, where he always helped this child who needed help. He was just always full of love to help him out of the way without saying, he's always spilling or he's disturbing or he's screaming, shouting. Nothing. He would always say, come. He would pick up his plate. And coming from other children, yes, that came naturally because this was their first school, this is how they grew. But this particular child, I'm saying only because he had not lived that environment most of the times, and it was after a few months that we saw that.
So it's his natural inclination within him always. He just needed right...
I think all the children have it in them, right? It's what we turn them into gradually,
right.
What they get out of their environment. All children are beautiful.
But there's one argument where, again, somebody questioned me and they said, what if a child is showing eagerness to learn? That, what if a child is opening a book and saying, I want to learn how to read this book, or I want to be... See, writing is, again, a very physical thing. So they can't write until their bones in their fingers and hands are developed properly. But what about, like, let's say something as simple as reading? And the child is showing that eagerness and is getting frustrated that he is unable to read. And especially also because a lot of his peers are already reading. So how do you,
So we have mixed age kindergarten where you see this happening, where the older children are really ready to do many more things in the kindergarten, like craft, simple thing. We don't read there in kindergarten or ever. We don't even keep books in the classroom. So they'll say, teacher, I also want to weave. Okay, so this is a 4-year-old child who will ask for weaving or for finger knitting. And we know that's the eagerness because they see their friends doing it.
Right.
So we don't say you can't do it, and nor do we give it to them. When they come and say, teacher, I also want to do weaving like him. So this is a 5-year-old or 5+ child who's weaving, and then a 4-year-old or little lesser, 3.5, 4-year-old child comes and says, I want to do. The teacher just takes this one's hand and takes this one's hand and say, when your hands become as big as his, you will also read. And you believe it or not, they never question this. The other day I saw a parent doing the same thing in the spring fair, where he said, I want to buy the weaving kit. He actually asked for that, and the mother said, when your hands become little bigger than, as big as your friend's hand, you may have one. So to give that sense of anticipation to the children is healthy. Instead of giving them everything that they ask for. We are so quick at giving whatever they are asking for. But when you lead them towards that, leave them with that, I want this and I need to wait.
That's another life skill right there, right?
Absolutely. So even when they eat on the dining table, they are, let's say, 20 children. They wait for each child to be served.
I remember my son never being able to wait.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's something they learn with time, right?
Yeah.
So it's fine. The teacher is not going to judge the child if the child is not able to wait, but slowly it just develops in them. So everybody is served, then they say a grace, a blessing, and then they start to eat. If there's a new child who's come from other school and the child has a note, the child will just pick up. Everybody will say, wait. The teacher doesn't even have to say anything. But that waiting also is, like you said, a life skill, something that they need to learn.
Yeah.
So if the child is showing that eagerness to read, I would not want to deprive the child. Maybe, like, see, as a parent, you're already telling a story. The child is already reading, you're already reading a story. Now the child will make an effort and say, I want to read. So I will say, yes, please come. You may read. But we don't start teaching them how to read. You can just still have the child next to you or on your lap and
and they're also
reading
looking at
together.
pictures.
That is
and,
already part of, yes.
Yeah.
Instead of saying, okay, I'm going to teach you ABC and then we will start doing the words, 3-letter words. Then you are somehow taking away the joy of learning. I was telling you, I'll share a story. My kindergarten children, I took them to grade 1 when they went to grade 1. And the first day of grade 1 is very important. They come all after the summer holidays or whatever holidays. They come already. Now we are going to learn. We are going to read and write. So the first day when they came, I spent that time giving them crayons, showing them how to open their book, giving them a lot of these gems of grade 1, that when the teacher talks, we wait for our turn. A lot of these ground rules which we call gems. And I started, we did some movements together, we did a story, and that's where the class ended, and we drew. The child goes back home and says, the mother asked, how was it? Not nice. What teacher did not teach us how to read and write. So you can imagine, and the parent came and said she was very upset that she was not. I said there was so much that we did that day, but of course she was expecting this, which will come also, but that sense of anticipation.
Yeah. I think it would be an ideal world for me to see kids that eager to learn, like all kids.
Oh yes,
that eager to learn.
truly, I mean, grade 1 is a joy. Because you see, they are literally drooling to see when will she start teaching me? When will she give book and I can start writing there? So yeah,
and that's how learning should be, right?
Absolutely.
Learning should be something that should be perceived as, fun or something children should be curious about.
Absolutely.
But it's never that way.
Yeah.
Generally, children
it's dumbed on us.
Yeah.
Oh, now you're 4, you must start writing.
Yeah. And children are like detesting reading and writing, and they're like seeing academics as boring.
Absolutely. There you have to tell the children. The parent has called and said, my child is running 103 fever and she refuses to stay at home. Can you please tell her it's okay to be at home? So that is how much they learn. They love to learn. Basically, they think it's going to be such a big miss if I don't go to school one day. It sounds like a la-la land, truly speaking, but of course I've experienced, so I know what it really feels like. But I think if we as parents and teachers could work as a team to make this happen, it's absolutely possible in every single school or institute.
Yeah, and all children deserve this.
Course.
And we know better now more than ever.
Yes.
To be able to give this to children.
Yeah. So always to ask when they say that my child has read, when sometimes parents very proudly say, oh, my child, I mean, outside, my child has read 15 books. And inside I say, so I just say this to myself. It's the joy you think you've achieved. The child doesn't even look at it like that.
Yeah.
She's never counting the number of books. For
It's
her,
more...
yes, for her, it's the experience that matters.
Yeah. It's also more of a sense of accomplishment for parents because of something, somehow we are lagging within us as well. And we tend to use our children to fulfill few things that we are lagging.
So our voids, we want to fill it through them, basically.
Yeah. So my neighbors' kids go to Ratamangla and they came to give tickets. So then Haigra was like, Mera bhi to spring fair hai kal. And then he started making his own tickets. And he just came and told me, write the time on it. So, and he made it quite nicely. He put it in like packets, transparent packets. And he's like, I'm doing it so it wouldn't get wet. And then he went and gave it to the neighbors. That mere school mein bhi spring fair hai.
Oh, so sweet.
You can also come to my school.
Yeah, it's amazing how children actually sense it. Even Ashvi, Aditya's daughter, so they were away to Thailand and they came the previous day or something. So the moment Ashvi saw the mother, she said, tomorrow we have spring fair and you have to come to our spring fair. And she said, there are magic wand games there, Mama. And the mother came and told me, she was telling me this. And I was really surprised. How does she know?
Yeah.
So I just very subtly went and said, Ashvi, how do you know there's magic? Because Aisha told me this. So then I knew because Aisha's class, the teachers were making the magic wands. Okay. And they do it in front of children.
Yeah.
So, of course, again, that sense of anticipation that what is going to come. But, the way she connected and said, this magic wand game and you must come for our spring fair. Yeah.
So how do you follow these things which are supposed to be normal but is considered alternative? We call Waldorf education an alternate form of education, whereas, it should be what education is.
Yes. Well, I can talk about the birthday part. I had this ground rule that, of course, I'm not saying we have to be anti-social, and we are social beings, but at the same time, where do you want to have your own boundaries for yourself as an adult? Mm-hmm. I would get also same thing where you get 13 invites. And maybe first or second was enough to give me, a lesson, what I want. I realized it was really against what I really believe in. There was so much happening in each birthday party and the child being of least of focus.
Yeah, my kid would be always crying initially.
Yes.
He would any birthday party I would take him to, he would be crying throughout.
That's because they are overwhelmed and it's overstimulation for them. And we don't understand, oh, no, we have to sit till cake cutting and this and that. Yeah. That's why I said the child is the least. The whole focus is very different. It's all about adults and how well the decor has been done and the, pinata and the food. Everything is just too much for a child to deal with. So I used to choose, I lived in a different community of only Waldorf parents who believed in it. But even otherwise, you kind of know, right, which parent is more towards organic side and all. And I chose these few parents whose birthday I would take the child to. Mm-hmm. And I just stuck to that. And if they are my friends, truly, they will understand. I always said, it's too much for my child. I am really sorry. And there was a point where I said, I know you like to do these fancy parties. I'm not against it, but it doesn't suit me and my child's needs. I hope you understand that.
As a parent, it takes a lot to stand out that differently, right? Even within your families. I mean, luckily for me, within my family, it has been a very smoother process. But you always oh, what are you trying to achieve that, all of us are missing out on?
Yeah, you probably will be told off many, many times as a young parent when you are trying to be little different. You're not trying to be, you are different. But I think it pays off in long run when your child grows up.
Like more and more parents might have a feeling that like there is an alternate way towards raising or towards educating my child, but they don't have enough confidence to do that because they also fear that again, by chance, if my child doesn't learn, then what if my child is like 7 and then does not end up reading or writing, or what if it never happens? What if my child ends up staying behind the rest of the peer group? And I also feel this because for me, Waldorf was a very easy choice. So I have not visited a single other kindergarten in Kathmandu, and it was like no question asked. But it is also like easier to make that choice versus everybody else for them. So whoever came to me ever asking that, talking about Waldorf or us, they always had this doubt that but what if? So do you think that's
What was your actual question? I forget.
so basically like
To choose an alternate.
education, or knowing in your heart that this is what my
you
child might need, but taking that decision because you have this lingering doubt that okay, what if things don't turn out the way, because we don't see enough proof of let's say outcomes of this type of education.
Well, even if they go to a certain school, let's say, which are the top schools? Lincoln, British, Ulins, Rato Bangla. Let's say Rato Bangla, if they're going to, or any, let's not name a school, any school that they go to, they're doing the same thing with each child, but still the children are different.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
No matter what, the same content, the same teacher, but each child is different. It's the same at home with the same mother giving the same love and raising to the child, but each of us as siblings, we are different. So each child comes with what the child's need is and how the capacity of what the child will take.
Yeah.
So, I mean, of course, there's no guarantee of what the child will take. Even if they come to Waldorf, nobody can guarantee that your child will be an avid reader or will become the best. Nothing can be guaranteed. It suits some children, the others maybe it doesn't. And each to themselves is what I see. I think it's the plunge we as parents have to take, believing in what we believe in. If we believe that, no, our child needs to go through competition or child needs to, this is what I want, then the parents will find that right school for their child. So I do not like to truly tell any parent who walk into our door. I mean, I have sometimes scared some parents and they never came back. Even they wanted their child. I said, you are looking at competition, but I'm really sorry to say, I know I will disappoint you. This will not be the right choice because you will always be unhappy and it will affect your child and he will be unhappy. I don't think you should look at putting your child here.
So basically to each his own.
Yes, absolutely, I feel. We can only say, yes, the system is beautiful, but we are not guaranteeing you that you will, I mean, yes. So the parent has to make this choice of choosing, when you go to a restaurant, there's such a huge menu, but you choose certain things consciously, maybe choose only the healthy things out of there, even though the other things like momo or burger could be tasty, but we choose what, and we take that risk. Maybe it will not be as tasty as momo, but that's the choice. We make it for ourselves, for our health's sake. It's the similar thing. Okay, I won't compare with menu, but still, it's the choice that parent makes.
Yeah.
So when some parents sometimes ask me, what do you think about this school? I always just tell them two things. When you go to a school, what you need to see, I can't say this school is good or that school is good. When you go to a school, first go and see. Don't look at the academic part. That's one thing that you look at. Check their books. How much extra pressure are they giving at this age? One thing is that. but look at children's faces. That is what you need to.
Are they happy?
That's all you need to see.
And eventually, all parents, all they want for the kids is to be happy.
Absolutely.
Above everything else.
Absolutely.
So-
It could be the best school in the world, but doesn't serve if your child doesn't smile in that school. So that's important, I feel.
It's been amazing having this conversation with you, Di. And I think we've discussed so much around so many different things.
Yeah. We can stop.
Yeah.
Sure.
I hope you enjoyed this.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. And of course, it was a wonderful experience for me too. Thanks, Satan.
Thank you so much for sharing all your insights.
Yes, thank you.
This show is brought to you by Vyas Media Network.